Okay, so today, welcome back again to our final class of this semester. I hope you have learned a bit so far throughout the classes. Some of the classes might be a bit too general. Some of the classes got specific information that you need to know, and then you did some assessment as well related to the classes. So today we're gonna complete another 2 more topics, right, related to this particular course, and then we're gonna end this particular course today, right? And based on the topics that we have covered, I think we have enough actually information on this part. We have enough information and knowledge for this particular topic, right? Okay, so for today, I'm going to actually cover on 2 more topics. So screen. Right. Which is resources and stakeholder management, which is similar to traditional project. If you remember, some of you still remember, so resources and stakeholder are very important when it comes to project management. Resources and stakeholder are very important because they are crucial. I think we have covered this a bit here, in previous topic on resources as well as in stakeholder. Right. Basically, what is resource? Resource allocation is a process of assigning and utilizing resources effectively. Okay, therefore, in particularly, it become when it comes to traditional project, resources can be things that are very straightforward. However, when it comes to virtual project, allocating resources to your remote teams, you need a good amount of planning. And then balancing resources availability and project demands is actually crucial for your project success. So this basically means that your resources, right, need to be managed properly. Resources not necessarily can be physical resources, such as your material, right, and your machines, like equipments, but it can also mean your manpower resources as well, and also time-related resources. Okay. When it comes to virtual team, right, when you are dealing with projects, but you are doing things remotely, and then you have some physical project happening at different time zones, right? This logistic or supply chain challenges will become much more high compared to traditional project where you have your resources available locally. But if you are located remotely, and then your resources might be available at that particular site locally, or even available in other places or other geographical location, then you need to actually plan ahead on the logistics as well as on the supply chain, how the supply chain works for your particular project. Okay. Then you also need tools and strategies, right, for allocation in virtual team as well. When it comes to resources management, effective time management also plays an important role, not limited to physical and manpower resources management. You also need to maintain your time as well, particularly when it comes to virtual project, right? Time management skills are very crucial for virtual project success. So basically what you need to do, you need to have a technique for setting priorities, right? Technique for setting priorities, right? You need to create a schedules and managing time zones effectively. So we are talking about, some of you say that you are handling branches, right? If you are in headquarters, handling branches is different thing, right? Handling virtual project is different thing, right? So these are 2 different things that we need to differentiate. So if you already have a very good local team can run independently, that's not a virtual project, right? Virtual project means you are a team available in remote in everywhere, right, in different geographical locations, and then your particular role in the project is very important that to ensure the project success. So it's not simply that you have a local team in that particular region. They will handle it and then they just report to you. Reporting to you is different compared to managing the project remotely. So some of, I think in other classes, some of the students ask me, what happened if this, because we don't need to have like a lot of we don't need a lot of management from our side, because as a project manager, so the people are reporting to us and we don't need to do anything because locally they are doing it for us. So that is different thing, right? That means you are alone, you are project manager available at different places, but locally you have good team that can manage the project for you locally. Then they just report the progress for you, meaning that you have become a stakeholder rather than a project manager, even though if your role is a project manager. Right. So that is different. So when it comes to remote project, you are dealing with it with your team, and then every person's role in the project is very important. Everybody need to report to you, all right, on what they are doing, and then they are doing it independently. So that is what it means by virtual projects. We have talked about this many times, and then when it comes to virtual project, you're gonna have a challenge on coordinating activities across time zones, right? And then you also need to put in strategies for scheduling meetings and tasks in virtual projects. It is not simply things can be done on its own, right? You need to schedule a meeting, right? You need to schedule a task that need to be done in particular period of time in order to ensure this project success. Okay, let's move on to stakeholder. Okay, I think we have talked about stakeholders so many times, and then when it comes to virtual project, stakeholder engagement and communication is very important, right? Because when in traditional project, it's easy for stakeholder to be engaged with the project management team. Why? Because you have PMOs, right? You have project management office, then you have documents over there ready for them to review, and then you have a person in charge to entertain stakeholders. However, when it comes to virtual project, there is no such thing, right? So you need you need to uh, what you call it, inform the progress of your project to your stakeholder regularly, right? So some of the project manager might wanted to engage with the stakeholder or reporting on the progress on a weekly basis, right? And maybe once in a month basis, or maybe even when there is some progress in the project, then you're going to do reporting, right? You might not wanted to take that route of a typical traditional project where you will report maybe quarterly basis, all right, on that particular scale. Then the stakeholder will be left behind on the things that has been done by the team. So, right, so there's a need of effective communications, and regular updates is the key. Regular updates are the key for success of stakeholder engagement, particularly in the virtual project environment or landscape. And then if most of your stakeholders are available remotely, right? So for example, your client might be at different place and then your top management at different place, right? So there are strategies that need to be laid out in order for you to engage with the remote stakeholder. You need to, because I cannot be detailing out what should be done, but this is basically a guideline for you, a best practice for you, that you need to have your own strategies for engaging with the remote stakeholders. So you can do it, right? You can plan ahead what things should be actually reported, and then what are the things that actually no need to be reported because it's very minor, right? You don't want to have a regular update as well, then you're gonna disengage yourself and your team with the stakeholder because they are thinking that you're gonna always report on things that are not important for them. So report on things that are important and are very critical for the project. It is also important for you to identify key stakeholders, right? Okay, you should identify your key stakeholders, right? For example, you have external stakeholders, you have internal stakeholders, right? Right? You are clients, and then who are your clients? And then if you are subcontracting some of your project, and then you have your subcontractors as well. So it's very important to identify and categorize your stakeholders. And then you need to have a strategist for mapping stakeholders in the virtual projects, right? meaning that you should map them for which tasks that need to be important, need to be reported to them. When we talk about resources and also stakeholders, so there's always a conflict resolution. Conflict challenges in virtual project is one of the main challenges is conflict resolution. So how to resolve a conflict when you are not available locally, right? Okay, so when it comes to stakeholder management, you're gonna have a conflict as well arises in the what particularly in virtual teams. So we have actually talked about techniques for addressing conflicts in the previous lectures, and then you can review them and then put a list on what can be done in order for you to resolve resolve conflicts that happen in your virtual team. Okay, to reiterate back again, so your conflict can be basically listening, right? You can have a mediation as well, become a mediator for conflict between two particular team members, or even between stakeholders, right? Or maybe between client and your team, and then between your top management and your team. So you can be, but you cannot be the source of the conflict. So that should be you should be the source of conflict resolution, not the source of conflict. And so there are many more things that can be done in order for you to resolve conflicts related to the virtual team. Okay, and then you need to encourage and respect communications to resolve and to have a respectful communication to resolve conflict. You cannot put words that you cannot just inform them, direct them, right, to actually and then be biased toward one particular group rather than actually to be neutral in resolving the conflict. So these are particular things that you should you should take note. Okay, and we have talked about a lot of collaborative tools as well as software tools related to project management, right? In that particular tools as well, there are a need for resource and time management. I think last time when we did the project discussion, so with the topic discussion related, we did a group discussion related to one of the topic. I think we have actually tried to discover some of the softwares related to project management, particularly in virtual environment, right? We have talked about collaborative tools. We have talked about cloud storage, and so on. In that particular collaborative tool, there should be a resource and time management tool available as well for you, right? In the project management software or collaborative tool software, you should be able to plan, track, and collaborate on the tasks and projects, right? You should have also task assignment, meaning that you are assigning tasks, right, to a software to some of your team members, and then they can update their timeline and project tracking as well. So meaning that you can assign a task, right? For example, you do a task breakdown or work breakdown structure in the software itself. Once done, you assign every particular task to a specific person, and then that particular person can update their timeline and progress. So every team member can see, or maybe you want project manager only to see the progress. So this is basically what you want in the collaborative tools in the virtual environment or project management tool that you have actually decided to purchase or to subscribe to. And then when it comes to time tracking tools, right, it basically help to monitor and log the time that you spend for each of the tasks. For example, if you spend 2 weeks on a particular task, that particular software tool should be able to log whatever has been done in that particular period of time, right? And then this thing can actually help you finding insights on resource allocation, particularly in the time management, time resource allocation, right? So that can assist. So you can actually so since you know one particular team member actually having hard time doing with this because it takes a lot of time, few weeks to do with it very actually maybe rudimentary particular tasks that actually can be done in lesser time, then you can see that he's taking a lot of time, and then other team member might want to assist as well. And then maybe project manager need to coordinate further for that particular team member, right? And then resource allocation as well, right? So when it comes to resource allocation, that particular software tool should be able to assign resources, right? What particular asset to specific task or project. This particular thing normally available in the project management tool, right? for those who actually use Primavera or maybe use Microsoft project. So you should be able to see some of the tasks can be assigned to specific asset. So similarly in virtual environment, if you decided to use one of the tool, right, you need to make sure that you can actually do this. Then some last time when we discussed, right? So when there is a budget limitation in terms of software tool and project tool, you should not be deciding to buy every single tool that you think you need. So you need to balance out what are the thing that is in the most prioritized list, and then what is the least priority. Yeah, what is the least priority things that you need to have in your collaborative tool. So you need to assign it, and then for those who are least, for example, you don't want uh in instant messaging tools in the then you can actually neglect it, and then you use other free platform to communicate. So there are things that you can balance out. You don't necessarily to buy every single thing that you need to have, and then suddenly you end up with 3 software or 4 software that costs you maybe like a 30,000-40,000 a year, right? Just to renew the licenses, right? So you need to plan, and then what is the task that you think is needed, and then can be actually purchased upon priority. There are several resource allocation models, right? Okay, basically resource allocation model is basically a model on to determine how resources are assigned to different tasks or project management. For example, how you want to assign each of the resources. There are several models, right? Fixed allocation, dynamic allocation, and hybrid model as well. So we won't be covering in detail what is this model, right? Because we have covered some financial model in the project management. For those who have taken, then we'll cover over there. For here, for this particular course, you just need to know that there are several models available for you to actually use, right? Basically, the choice of model depend on the unique characteristics of the project itself, right? It depends, because there's no such thing that I can say that, oh, for this particular project, for your project, please use fixed allocation. For your project, please use dynamic allocation, and then you might need to use both fixed and dynamic as well. So it cannot be, but it need to be decided by the project manager itself, right? Whether there are several factors that you need to consider. For example, consistency, flexibility, and adaptability of the project, right? Whether it need to be the resource model should be fixed or dynamic. So it all depends on the project itself. So there's no one correct way compared to another. So there's several models that you can use, that you can particularly use it for whatever project that you're handling remotely. So basically, when it comes to time management, there are several practices that we can actually share among us. So right, one is time blocking. Time blocking is important, right? For those who are actually not familiar with time blocking, the simplest way to imagine time blocking is sending calendar invite, right? Normally in your day-to-day work, right? So on a daily basis, when you want to have a meeting with someone else, you actually send a calendar invite to them, and then they will accept or reject that particular calendar invite. And with that calendar invite, you can see a lot of means all details that you needed on the description of the meeting itself, right? So what are the meeting is for, and so on, who are in the meeting, and then who are in the list of the meeting, who is optional, who is compulsory to attend the meeting, right? So time blocking, particularly when for those who are very familiar, you can see that it's very important when you want to block someone else times when you are dealing with them in some way or another. But for this project management, it's very important to have a time blocking, right? Normally in virtual projects, you already block their time. Like for project manager, as a project manager, you have blocked everybody times, maybe on weekly basis, right? To have a one-to-one meeting, or maybe on quarter, you have already planned your calendar of meetings, right? Then you have blocked their time, and then they should not be doing other things in their particular work. That is when it comes to meetings, right? And then for those who are actually dealing with tasks, you need to have a block. You need to block your time on how many resources or manpower hours that you need to utilize for this specific task. And so that's also need to be blocked in your calendar as well, or maybe blocked in your collaborative tools. And then you should also have prioritization, meaning prioritization is the process of identifying which process or which task is the most important, and And then you need to always reassess as a project manager. You need to always reassess and identify the tasks that are actually considered as important at that particular time, right? For example, those tasks that actually considered important in one time period might not be important in another time period, right? So maybe another task will be more crucial or critical. And in virtual projects, normally we try to avoid multitasking, right? We always try to avoid multitasking. Why? Because multitasking, it reduces efficiency. But normally what everybody said that you need to have you need to do multitasking because you cannot be doing one single thing at the same time, on one time only. You need to do multiple things at the same time. Basically, in virtual project, we always try to have a best practices of having a single task to be done at a single particular time, instead of having multiple tasks, actually, or a person or a team dealing with multiple tasks at the same time. So right, because it is your monitoring or tracking of the progress of that particular task, and it also creates a better results, right? And then less stress given to the team members, right? So therefore, normally as a best practice, you always try to have one particular task happen at a single time. Okay. Time zone differences are also common, right? We have talked about it so many times, and then handling them effectively is very essential. Okay. Strategies to manage this time zone, we have actually discussed about it, so I'm going to reiterate back again. Okay, for example, you identify overlapping working hours, and then we can actually strategize in such a way that they can collaborate in real time rather than asynchronously, meaning that they are just record, or maybe they just doing it at different time zone, and then they share it, and then they can review it in some other time. So if there is a overlapping working hours between them, and then that particular hour should be allocated for real-time collaboration. So always like that. When there is overlapping, for example, over there is 5 to 6 p.m. already close to ending of working hours. Then here is just starting working hours, and then you find it overlap, and then both of them are in the same that working hours in working hours period. So you can try to assign it in such a way that they can collaborate in real time. That is a priority, right? Meaning that that's a priority for collaboration in real time, not priority to do other tasks or independent tasks handling and so on. And then you always wanted to rotate meeting times. So, right, so to accommodate local hours as well as accommodate those who are in different time zones, right? So, okay. And then when it comes to stakeholder communication plan, so there are several things that you need to decide. Okay, so here, so I'm going to focus on here. So first is, what is the communication channels, right? So you don't want to communicate with stakeholder with instant messaging app, right? So you wanted to have some sort of proper channel. And then stakeholders should also be able to access your document in your virtual environment, such as in your OneDrive or in your Google Drive, whatever, or maybe in your Azure or SharePoint and so on. Right? You need to identify how the stakeholder can access, because you want to limit access to your file. Last time when we talk about file online, right, there's a lot of risk involved, right? Such as breaching, right, privacy, right, and so on, and then security. So you don't want to give access on accessing your file or folder to everybody, right? They don't want to have, like, you need to create a password, you need to create a username for them, for stakeholders, so they can actually access some of the files that in order to go to on the updates related to the project. And then you need to decide what's the frequency of updates, and then who is the person in your team who are responsible to communicate with the stakeholders. We have talked about a lot of tools, right? For example, is online tools, right? Like Zoom or Microsoft Teams, right? Normally, we want to have a face-to-face virtual meetings when it comes to stakeholder management. And then when it comes to instant messaging, you might not want to use like a typical messaging app, like a social messaging app, like a WhatsApp, all right, or iMessage, right? So you wanted to use instant messaging app in the collaborative environment itself, such as Slack or maybe Microsoft Teams. And then other project collaboration platform that we actually had talked about, such as Trello, right? Where they allow for centralized location, uh, a central location for a team member to collaborate, track progress, and so on. So this has been discussed last time. And then we also have talked about conflict last time also, so other one. So there are several conflict resolution frameworks. This is a very uh, psychological topic, right? Basically topic that relate to psychology or maybe in social behavior, but not related to us. So, but I'm gonna put some of the conflict resolution framework that we can go through that you wanted to have a read as well. For example, Thomas Kilman, there are conflict mode instrument actually help individual in assess conflict, handling conflict styles. And Harvard also have actually laid out Harvard negotiation projects principle on the principle of negotiation when it comes to projects as well. So these are particular things that you can go through at your own time on what can be done to resolve conflicts, as well as the arts of negotiation. So maybe not be covered in this class, but something that you can consider in reading later on. Okay. Okay, that's all from me for this particular topic. Is there any questions? If no questions, do we have enough student here? Still, so not many here. See, we have like 15, I think close to like 15 not here. So basically, so I'm gonna maybe I just before we take a break and also go into the practice quiz, maybe I can actually explain a bit on final assessment, right? I think for those who their team members are not here, so maybe you can explain to them. But this is not a group-based assessment, this is individual. But if you know them, maybe you can just communicate to them, right? Relay this information to them. Basically for final assessment has been uploaded and has been open in Europe starting from today, right? If you go to Europe in the assignment site, you can see your final assessment has been open. So this is basically a guideline from the a recent guideline sent by the graduate school that mentioning that we need to actually open it by today and close it by 30. So it's actually common across other subjects as well. Okay, so it has been open starting from today, and then I will close the submission on 30th December at 12 midnight. So basically it's a case study basis. It's a case study based questions, right? So quite similar to some of the assignment, right? But you need to do it individually, and then you need to be creative. I already put the rubric for you, right? I have already put the rubric for you so that you can go through the rubric, and then what are the things needed to be put in your final assessment report. So you need to prepare a report and submit to me in your rocks. So it's basically individual, and then you need to address all the concerns, all the questions that are needed in the case study questions. Then please go through, and then once you go through, but I won't be entertaining any part of the requirement for final assessment that I won't be entertaining you related to the question or specific task in the final assessment. Right? If you have question, you cannot view a technical side of things, you can inform me. But a guidance on the thing, I won't be actually providing any guidance on the final assessment itself. So you have a rubric been given to you. Please refer to the rubric and then please put information accordingly. Whatever information needed to be put in the report has been listed in the case study or even listed in the rubrics. Right? So please go through. It's open today, and then please do not submit after 30th because that is the closing time. So there is no additional time given. Hopefully you can finish on time, and then actually you can prepare a well-written report related to the case study, right? So with that, if you don't have any questions, so we have a
Doctor, I have one question, Doctor.
Yes, yes.
Okay, regarding the assessment, do we need to choose one particular project?
No. There's one project given to you already, one case study already given.
Oh, okay.
But basically, it's a similar case study to everybody, right?
Is it a single attempt or we have multiple attempts throughout the week?
You can re-upload again, you can re-upload again your file multiple times. So it's not that you submit one time, then it's better. So you have a time until 30th for you to submit and resubmit. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Doctor, so we upload it in Words document or do we have to convert it
PDF.
into
So
PDF?
it's all PDF, right?
Okay.
So I think you can see in the requirement also I mentioned earlier, I need one single PDF file. Okay. Any more questions? If no, I think you can go through the case study after this also, right? You can go through and check what's inside. I actually have something need to be uploaded, so I'll upload things as well. So please, also we're gonna take a break. Alongside with the break, please complete the practice quiz for this particular topic that they're already available in Urox. Please go ahead and please try. And then while you are trying with that, you can also review the case study, final assessment for this particular class, right? So I'll see you back again maybe in 20 minutes. Okay, so you have 20 minutes to do the practice quiz, and then we'll come back again, maybe 9:35 or maybe 9:40. Okay, see you later.
Huh?
Hello everyone. Let's continue back again. I believe you have done the practice quiz, and also you don't have any question related to the case study, yeah? Final assessment. Hope all clear. Please follow instruction and do accordingly. That's all. As for the other carry marks for other type assessment, so maybe I'll release it by next week. So I'm still like marking some of it. So can you hear me? Yeah. So let's continue with the final topic for this class. So which is the project closure. So basically, so this is the final topic for this class, which is on virtual project closure and evaluation. Right. We actually did something similar with traditional project as well. Both virtual project closure for both project closure for virtual projects as well as for traditional projects are quite similar. But we're gonna repeat back again. Then we're gonna see that what is the important thing that is needed when it comes to project closure. Okay. Basically, project closure and evaluation is a very critical or essential phase when it comes to project management, either virtually or even traditional project management. Okay, because there are several, because just by finishing the project doesn't mean by finishing the task breakdown, whatever final task that has been given in the project doesn't mean the project has ended. So there are other things that need to be prepared after all the works has been completed, right? Okay, basically when it comes to virtual project, we need a very specific attention when it comes to ensuring that our goals have been met, and then we have learned lessons related to the challenges and positive inputs that we can actually get from the experience handling that particular project. Okay, basically virtual project closure is an formal conclusion of the project, including handing over deliverables, releasing resources, and conducting a post-project review as well. Okay, basically, when we do a project closure, it gives us a sign of what has been completed, whether we have met every single objective that we have actually listed down or we have declared in the beginning of the project, whether we have achieved all the objective, or whether there are some objective that has been left out from the project that we have missed out, or maybe we have overlooked, whether we have actually covered the necessary scopes that is needed, right? Whether whatever scopes that we have declared in the beginning of the project has been actually fulfilled, or whether there is a scope, whether there is actually scope step that we actually done right here and there, whether how the scope has been managed, how the objective has been managed, and those, so all of things need to be addressed in the project closure overview. Basically, there are several importance of virtual project closures. One, actually, it is actually act like a handover or formal handover of project deliverables. It also releases resources for other projects, right? Meaning that whatever, for example, we are actually shifting towards other projects, right? And then we have resources that actually currently been used for this particular project. You need to release that particular resources, either manpower resources or maybe other physical resources such as equipments. Then I want to release that resources for other projects. And then we need to actually get a feedback from client to ensure that the client satisfied with the project deliverables. And then finally, the important thing is we want to capture lessons for future improvement, right? There are in project management, you should have a lesson learned document as well. Lesson learned documents meaning that you have a challenges, right? Whatever you face or whatever risk that you actually encountered in the project should be listed in the lesson learned document so that you can use it for future projects, right? Even much more beneficial for projects that actually are similar in nature. So that's why you need a lesson learned documents as well. Okay. There are several key elements, right, reflected in the when we cover 4 important things of project closure, and then there are several key elements to address that. So one, we need the formal acceptance of deliverables, right, from the client itself, right? We need an official resource release and team disbandment. For example, there are many challenges when it comes to resource release, right, whether the client actually cannot take over the resources at that particular time. They need time. They need like a team to handle the resources, and then they might have issues over there. So this thing need to be addressed during the project closure. And then you need to assess the client and also stakeholder satisfaction. And then finally, like I said, you need to have a lesson learned documentation and evaluation, which is very important, that to make sure that every single thing that you have actually faced during the project has been addressed, right, properly in a lesson learned documentation. Okay, what does it mean by formal deliverable of acceptance? Basically, it confirms that the project objectives and scopes have been met. So, right, and then it establishes the accountability for project deliverables. It also can involve a formal sign-off, right, or client acceptance procedures. Normally, you have a deliverable, like a delivery project delivery documents that you actually normally ask the client to sign, meaning that they are satisfied with all those deliverables. And then once they sign, meaning that they agree, and then they accept the projects that has been delivered to them, right? So if there is some conflict over there, and then they will revert back to you as a project manager, and then there are certain things that actually has been discussed earlier in the project that has not been met. So this thing might be actually coming back here, and then you might need to address it in the team briefing or whatever team meeting, so that you actually need to extend a bit on the project just to solve whatever issues with the client acceptance. So these are very important things. Okay, basically, when it comes to resource release and team disbandment, meaning that resource release, meaning that you are releasing resources, right? Whatever that has been allocated for this project, and then you are releasing it to other project, right? If you didn't do that, meaning that you still have resources listed in the current project that are still there, then meaning that this particular project is still owner of that particular resources, and then it cannot be shifted to another project, right? Then you're gonna have some logistical issues over there. So what you need to do, you need to release resources, whatever you are using for this particular project, for that particular new project. And then you need to disband this particular project team. If in case you are working on a project basis, right? And then for next project, you're gonna have a new team members, or maybe your members need to be joining other projects, and then you need to disband. And then you're gonna allow them to transition to new assignments that has been allocated for them. So this, or if you are actually shifted to your own team, new team projects later on, and then you need to actually disband the team still, and then you're gonna shift all your or transition all your team members into the new assignment. Basically, when it comes to client or stakeholder satisfaction, all right, basically we are going to gather feedback from client regarding the project outcome, right? Normally there is a formal documents, right? Or even for virtual project, you can give a online survey for the client. So for a simple project, for actually maybe a simple project, you can send a survey form, right, to get a feedback from the client on the satisfaction regarding regarding the progress and regarding the project outcomes. And then you can identify areas for satisfaction, and then potential improvement for future projects as well. When it comes to lesson learned and documentation, basically it's important document as well, right? It's not some random abstract document. Basically, it captures insights, successes, challenges, and areas for improvement related to the project, particularly risks that has been managed, and then whatever failures that actually comes to handling that project, right? Whatever things that you actually fail to address, you have challenge to address, this particular thing need to be addressed in the lesson learned documentation, because there's always in virtual project, there's always a need to address all the mistakes, right? instead of capturing all the positive, right, positive side of only discussing on the successes when it comes to project, it's very important to address the failures or challenges in the actually when it comes to handling the project. Okay, and then you also need to, this particular document also should have evaluation of the project performances against whatever initial plan that has been laid upon during the beginning of the project. So you evaluate back again whether you have met the overall performances. Okay. Okay, basically virtual project evaluation overviews. Basically, it shows that it actually is a systematic assessment of the project processes, just for us to identify the strength, weaknesses, and area for improvement. So basically, this will give us valuable insight for future projects. If those who are actually in project management class last time, if you refer to the risk matrix last time, all right, you should see that when there is actually when you are dealing with a actually recurring project similar in nature, right, the risk of actually the project to become a failure become lower, right? So you can put it in a risk matrix model, and then you can have a lower risk when it come to handling this project in the future. So this actually going to lead to have a lesser risk, lower risk when it comes to future projects that actually similar in nature. You might have challenges in this project, but when it comes to future project, so you might have a lower risk because you already have experiences dealing with the project, and then you can deal it with properly. And then even for this project, maybe there is some delays. Then for future project, the delays can be avoided. They're very important for this project evaluation, right? Particularly lesson learned. So you wanted to know and identify what worked well and what didn't. You also want to enhance the organization project management processes, whatever processes that you have done, particularly when it comes to virtual project, particularly handling teams, right? You want to enhance it later on for future, right? So that you won't repeat the same mistake again. So whatever conflict that you have that failed to be addressed, something that you wanted to put in the lesson learned document, on the evaluation document, so that it can be addressed in the future earlier. And then this lesson will improve from the past. Actually, whatever have been completed, it has become the past, and then it can be used as steps that can be included to improve the outcome of the future projects. So there are several things that there are several key elements that need to be addressed in the project evaluation. One is to review the objective and performance, right? You check back again the objective listed, right? And then review its performances, right? And then you want to assess the project timelines and budgets as well, right? Whether there is like an over budget happen, or whether there is an element, a cost element in the budget document that actually exceeded whatever has been actually initially decided. So you might want to review back that again. And then you want to evaluate your project team performances. You have multiple teams, right? You wanted to check, right, whether each of the team has actually satisfied with the team you are satisfied with their work has been done throughout the project timeline. And then you identify areas for process improvements in the project itself. When it comes to a review of objectives and performances, you wanted to make sure that project goals achieved and every project objective were met, right? So you wanted to list down similar to whatever you do in your research project later on. So right at the end, in the conclusion section, you wanted to put a table and then put the objective, and then you wanted to highlight whether objective has been met. And then if there's an issue in addressing this objective, you wanted to address as well. Even if there is a deviation from the project plan, you wanted to identify all those things. Maybe there's some objective has been changed in the middle of the project. That particular thing you wanted to address as well in this particular documentation. Okay, when it comes to project timelines and budget, okay, you want to evaluate whether the project has been completed within allocated time and budget. And then if there is a delay or maybe budget overruns, you wanted to decide what actually causes the budget to overrun, right? So normally maybe overall budget has not been actually exceeded, whatever has been actually decided earlier on, but some of the cost element of the budget might have exceeded, right? Maybe you don't fully utilize the cost element that has been put on in the beginning of the project, then you wanted to address those issues as well. Okay. And then you wanted to evaluate the project team's performances, right? You want to assess, when it comes to virtual project, you wanted to know how your team collaborated and communicated, right? And then this is the time that you wanted to recognize individuals and even collective contributions as well, team members, right? Teams, right? So particularly you want to address who actually contributed highly to the project. You want to address them as well. So rewards and also should be considered as well at the end of the project. For example, bonuses and so on when it comes to individual contributions as well as team contributions. Okay, when it comes to identifying areas for process improvement, so you highlight any process inefficiencies, right? Or even bottlenecks that affected the project performances, right? And then you suggest what are the improvements and best practices to enhance future project execution. And then this is one of the important thing when it comes to project closure. Okay, so you need to have a post-project review meeting, right? So basically, after the project has been completed, you wanted to know what is it? What you need to gather all your team members and did a post-project review meeting addressing all the stuff that has been actually discussed in the earlier, right? So what lesson learned, objective achievement, performance, deliverables, and so on. So normally post-project review meeting involve everybody, stakeholders, right? Well, you involve your project stakeholders, team members, and project management as well to discuss whatever that we have actually mentioned, I mentioned just now, which is performances, whether your objective performances have been met, even your scope, right? Challenges and lesson learned, all should be addressed in this meeting. Not one day meeting, but it can be multiple meetings leading up to the project closure. The lesson learned when it comes to documentation or report in the lesson learned, so you wanted to capture the insights, best practices, and recommendation for the future project, and then you wanted to maintain a centralized repository system or folder, basically an online folder that anybody in the team member can access in the future, right? Or even maybe you alone as a project manager can have access to, right? When those others who wanted to have access to that folder can request permission from you. So this basically a centralized repository. You don't delete or you don't actually put it somewhere else that you cannot follow up again. This is very important. Compared to the traditional project, when it comes to virtual project, everything is online, right? You wanted to have access. The problem is some of the project once done, they didn't actually renew the access for the, or maybe softwares or whatever tools that has been used previously will not be continue again in the future project. And then you lose it, and then suddenly your file has been put it in abyss. So you cannot have access to the project files. So you need to put it in a centralized repository location, or even you can, if there is a printable document, right, you can print it and put it in a file and then put it at your own office environment. So maybe there's a project records, right, room, whatever that actually available in your organization that you want to put it over there. Or maybe you can transfer the file to a organization. Your organization do maintain a centralized system for all projects, and then you can want it to shift it over there instead of temporary location during the project timeline. Okay. Basically, when it comes to application of lesson learned, you want to share your lesson with project teams, and then because you wanted to avoid repeating same mistakes again, and then you want to leverage best practices that has been practiced throughout the project. And then you want to integrate into, because project management strategies is not 100% following whatever guideline has been given or whatever best practice has been given from someone else. So you actually you improve your own project management process and methodologies as a project manager. So you think that there are certain flow or processes in the project management methodology that you think should be improved, that are actually only applicable for your particular type of project, and then you please improve it, improve the process, and maybe even create your own processes, right? Create your own template of processes handling projects. That is supposed to be the best practice. It's not like a copying whatever thing has been done, even the PM book, not copying everything, but actually improving it, and then make sure it's suited for your project. And then if your project has bundled both traditional and virtual, you wanted to combine both the processes, right, into single document. That show that it'll be easier for you to manage similar type of projects in the future. Okay, these are the best practices based on whatever I've mentioned to just now. So you need to have a formal deliverables of acceptance processes for the project. Basically, the client need to sign whether virtually or physically. And then you need to release the resources properly and efficiently so that no issues. So make sure all resources has been used, right? If there is a balance, right, you need to transfer it. Or for example, when it comes to machines and equipment, make sure all the equipment and machines has been maintained, maybe services beforehand, right, to ensure that there is no issues when it comes to future projects. And then you need to engage client for satisfaction assessments. And then you need to thoroughly document and evaluate lesson learned in the projects. So these are one of the some of the common challenges, right, when it comes to uh, project closure. First, it's difficult to obtain client feedback. Right? You are sending them survey form, or maybe you can send them a physical form for them to assess the project. So they take time, they took that time, and then they didn't come back to you. So it's very important for you to follow up again. And then there is a problem with resources release and team disbandment, right? So maybe there is some project actually concurrently running, right? And then they needed the resources to be released quicker. Or maybe when you want to, there is no option for you to release the resources because some of the resources might be used, but some by minimally by the current project itself, right? And then one of the common challenges also is very difficult for you to capture lesson learned, because you have many like hundreds of 200 thousands of things that has been mistakes that has been actually happened throughout the timeline of the project, and it's very difficult for you to assess all those lesson learned. And then there is a resistance to change and process resistance to process improvement coming from the team members itself, right? Or maybe from yourself as a project manager. This is particularly common challenges, and then you wanted to still follow your old practices, right? You don't want to change, even though your old practices shows up there is some issues when it comes to handling this type of projects. So there are several strategies to address this challenges. For example, you need to establish a clear communication with clients, right, for feedback collection. So make sure you have a easy platform for them to access for feedback, right? So if you give them 100-page feedback for sure, they will take very long time to address it. So you need to, second one, when it comes to team release, resources release and team disbandment, you wanted to have a structured process to release the resources and then how to disband the team. And then you also, when it comes to continuous learning, you need to promote right, continuous learning, acknowledge sharing when it comes to capturing all this lesson learned, because every team have their own challenges. So you wanted to consolidate all those particular challenges into one single document, right? And then you wanted to inform them this is the best practice that continuous learning is a best practice for them actually. And then it should be a culture among the team members, right? So that we capture all those mistakes, right? Some of them they want to actually admit the mistake has been done, right? They don't want to actually show back again what is the mistake, what is the failures that has been from the team to address those particular challenges. So this particular thing should be actually lead by the project manager itself. And then when there is a resistance to changes, right? So as a project manager, you need to communicate the benefit of process improvement, right? So because you are actually very familiar with that particular old processes, so it's very difficult for you to move on to a new type of processes. Okay. So for continuous improvement, so for sure you need to regularly evaluate the project closure and evaluation processes, and then to identify opportunities for enhancement. So you want to encourage a culture of learning and adaptability within the organization. You wanted to strive for ongoing refinement of project management processes so that things become more efficient and more effective in the future. So this is part of the continuous improvement, right? So you need to have a culture of learning always, right? Even not limited to project management, individually, you need to have always a culture of learning, right? You need to regularly, for this particular project, it's always there's a good practice to always evaluate the project closure, right? So that you can identify what are the things that can be future enhanced in the future. So these are particular things, part of the continuous improvement of the project. There are many more things that can be addressed, right, in the project, and then should be done by the project manager. Okay. Okay. With that, we have finished this particular topic, right? So we have finished with this particular topic.